Today is June 6th. 82 years ago, 150,000 Allied soldiers landed on 5 beaches in Normandy in the largest amphibious military operation in history, coordinated across 12 nations under unified command to stop a regime that had occupied a continent. The Lincoln Memorial reflecting pool, the one that appeared in photographs of the March on Washington, has been repainted American flag blue at a cost of millions of dollars, and visitors say the results are subtle. The jobs report came in this morning at 172,000, and Google is reportedly putting $11 billion into SpaceX 1 week before the largest IPO in history. Let's take all three. The May jobs report is a blowout by any headline measure. 172,000 jobs added, more than double the Bloomberg consensus estimate of 85,000. The unemployment rate held at 4.3% for the third consecutive month, the third straight month of positive payroll growth after February's contraction. Goldman Sachs head of multi-sector fixed income called it a payroll blowout and said it gave her confidence the Fed doesn't need to cut rates. Markets opened higher. Now let me tell you what the headline doesn't say, because this is the story the celebration is designed to prevent you from noticing. Wages in May grew 3.4% from a year ago. Consumer prices in April, the most recent CPI reading, rose 3.8%. 4% wage growth against 3.8% inflation means the average American worker made more money in May 2026 than in May 2025 and can buy less with it. In real terms, wages are still falling. The strong jobs report exists in a world where getting a job and improving your living standard are no longer the same event. You can be employed, you can be getting raises, and you can still be falling behind. That is the condition of the American labor market right now, and a $172,000 headline obscures it. Look at where the jobs came from. NPR's headline said it directly. Restaurants, bars, and hotels. Leisure and hospitality added 70,000 of the 172,000 jobs in May. 41% of the entire month's job growth came from one sector. These are, on average, among the lowest paying positions in the private economy. They are also, not coincidentally, among the sectors receiving the largest boost from the imminent FIFA World Cup, which begins in 5 days in cities across America and is expected to draw 5 million international visitors over its 39-day run.
The tourism economy is front-running a sporting event.
The underlying structural hiring trend in manufacturing, in construction, in professional services and technology is not captured in a number driven by bartenders and hotel front desk staff preparing for an influx of soccer fans.
The Economic Policy Institute's Elise Gould noted this morning that nominal wage growth continued to decelerate, further exacerbating affordability as prices rise. That is a careful way of saying workers are winning the headline and losing the purchasing power battle. The long-term unemployed, people out of work for 27 weeks or more, number 2 million, up 524,000 over the year. That number is the structural beneath the cyclical. The people who have been out of work for 6 months or more are not benefiting from a World Cup-driven restaurant hiring surge. They are the persistent residue of the labor market's transformation, and they are growing by more than 500,000 over the past 12 months. Kevin Warsh's Federal Reserve inherits this report and now faces a specific choice. The Goldman Sachs reading, "Don't cut, because the labor market is strong," is politically safe and technically defensible on the headline. The EPI reading, "Wage growth is decelerating below inflation. The strong number is sector concentrated, and real wages are still falling." But doing so would look like capitulating to political pressure during a period when inflation is running hot. There is no clean answer. What there is, instead, is a 1722,000 number that will be quoted in press releases and a real wage situation that will be felt in grocery stores and gas stations and will not be quoted in any press release. Watch the June number, released in early July. If World Cup tourism inflates May, the July hangover, when the stadiums empty and the bartenders return to normal volumes, will tell a different story. The momentum headline today may be the seasonal peak. That's the question nobody is asking on a payroll blowout morning. Now the SpaceX IPO.
because yesterday added a detail that changes the demand structure of the entire deal. Google is reportedly investing $11 billion in SpaceX in the week before the IPO pricing. 1 week. The roadshow started June 4th, pricing is June 11th, and the company that runs the world's dominant search engine, advertising network, cloud infrastructure, and AI competitor to XAI is writing an $11 billion check, specifically timed to land in the public record as book builders are assembling their institutional order books. Think about what that does. When Goldman Sachs is calling institutions, pension funds, sovereign wealth funds, large asset managers, and asking whether they want to participate in a deal at $135 per share at $1.75 trillion. The first question those institutions ask is, who else is in? Google being in at $11 billion answers that question with the most credible possible validator. A company with a $7 trillion market cap just told the world that SpaceX is worth owning at $1.75 trillion. Whether Google actually believes that on a fundamental basis, or whether this is a strategic defensive move, you cannot compete with the AI and satellite infrastructure of a rival that Elon Musk is building. So you invest in it to get exposure, rather than face it from the outside, is a question the $11 billion doesn't answer. Japan's IPO allocation has been upsized 25% to $2.5 billion on the strength of retail investor demand. Japanese retail investors, historically, have been among the most enthusiastic and among the last informed participants in major American tech listings. The upsizing says demand is real. It also says demand is being drawn from a demographic that is not in the best position to evaluate whether a company burning $27 billion in a single quarter with no key person insurance on its founder, at 94 times trailing revenue, is appropriately priced. SpaceX went straight to a fixed price of $135 per share, bypassing the normal process of setting a price range and narrowing it through book building. BitMEX's IPO analysis noted this directly. The standard IPO mechanic of announcing a price range and narrowing it through book building did not apply here. SpaceX went straight to a fixed price. What that means is that the traditional signal, where does the book build, where does demand cluster, does not apply in the usual way. What price do institutions actually clear at was removed from the information available to retail investors. You don't get to watch the institutional process. You get a number. The number is $135. The detail that will matter most in September is the lockup. BitMEX's analysis is the clearest on this. With 90 to 180-day lockup periods expected, and Musk controlling 85% of the votes, the post-lockup period could see the largest single-day insider selling event in market history. The insiders, early investors, private equity, employees with vested shares, are locked in through roughly September or December of this year. When those lockups expire, the people who own SpaceX at $5 billion and $50 billion and $350 billion will have the opportunity to sell to the people who bought it at $1.75 trillion. Everything before it is set up. Elon Musk released the Roadshow presentation link directly on his own social media platform. The founder and controlling shareholder of a company conducting a public offering personally amplified investor interest in that offering on a platform he owns to an audience he cultivates. The SEC has specific rules about how offers to the public may be communicated during a registered offering period. Whether Musk's social media promotion of the Roadshow link constitutes a technical violation is a question for securities lawyers. What it is practically is a founder bypassing the traditional separation between public communications and securities offerings in a way no company this size has attempted before. Nothing will happen from it, but it is worth noting. Now something quieter, and in its own way more telling than either of the first two stories. Yesterday, NPR reported that the Lincoln Memorial reflecting pool is being refilled after a weeks-long project to resurface and repaint the basin. President Trump had it painted American flag blue. The project reportedly cost millions of dollars. Workers are now refilling the pool. Visitors, NPR noted, say the results of the project are subtle. I want to sit with that sentence for a moment. Millions of dollars, weeks of draining and resurfacing a national monument, and the result is described, by the people who went to look at it as subtle. The Lincoln Memorial reflecting pool is not a random body of water. It appears in the photographic record of the March on Washington in August 1963, where the reflecting pool extended from the Lincoln Memorial toward the Washington Monument and served as the visual backdrop for the largest civil rights demonstration in American history. Its reflective surface, water, gray and silver and clear, was the point. It reflected the memorial behind it, which reflected the man it honored, who reflected the nation's aspirations. Making it American flag blue does not add to that reflection. It converts a space designed for historical contemplation into a backdrop for a particular administration's color palette. This is not the first time. This week's script alone does not have space to run the full list, but I covered it last month. Trump's signature on newly printed currency. His name on the Kennedy Center. His portrait on a national parks pass. His portrait on commemorative passports. His face on a mock-up $250 bill displayed at a White House press conference before any law authorizing it exists. A banner of his likeness over the Justice Department building. These are not random acts. They are the accumulation of a systematic image placement campaign across every category of public American symbolism: money, monuments, cultural institutions, government buildings, recreational access. The Lincoln Memorial Reflecting Pool is the most symbolically loaded of these because its history is specific and well documented and belongs to the American people in a way that the Kennedy Center's programming or the Justice Department's facade do not. What happened in the photographs taken beside that pool in August 1963 is not neutral history. It is contested history about who the country was and who it was trying to become. Painting the pool American flag blue does not erase those photographs, but it reframes the space. It asserts a different claim on the symbolism, and the fact that it cost millions of dollars to make the difference subtle means either the project was technically incompetent or the goal was the assertion, not the aesthetic result. June 6th, D-Day's 82nd anniversary. The Normandy landings required the coordination of 12 nations, the unified command of a single Allied structure, and the willingness of 150,000 men to get on boats and land on beaches defended by machine guns in service of a principle that no single nation's claim to dominance over a continent could be allowed to stand unchallenged. Today's three stories don't have a clean connection to that history. They are their own moment. But there is something worth noticing in the juxtaposition of what June 6th represents and what June 6th, 2026 looks like. A jobs report that celebrates job growth driven by bartenders and hotel staff in the World Cup cities, while real wages continue to fall. An IPO designed to extract maximum capital from the broadest possible base of investors through mechanisms that favor those who arrived first, and a national monument being repainted at public expense to serve a president's color preference. The men who landed on the beaches at Normandy were not doing it so that the Lincoln Memorial Reflecting Pool could be turned American flag blue. They were doing it for something that the phrase American flag blue is supposed to invoke, but actually doesn't. That's the gap. It's been widening for a while. Today, you can see it clearly by looking at the color of the water in Washington.